Let's give the Lord, we're out here in the middle of the Sea of Galilee, by the way, in Tiberias. How much noise can you make? Can you give the Lord a shout from the boat in the middle of the Sea of Galilee? Come on, everybody. Okay, there's a takeover spirit here. Calm down. Okay, the funny thing about walking on water, let's just look at the story that we've heard all of our life in the Bible, in Sunday school and preaching about Peter walking on the water. And let's tell you some things that you might not be aware of. First of all, on the night when that happened, the disciples were rowing a boat. It was at night. The only light you would have had back then is moonlight. And it would have set an eerie glow across this lake during a calm night. If you were not rowing on a moonlit night, or it was the new moon, in other words, meaning that there was no moon at all, it would be very spooky to be out here in the darkness rowing on the water. And you don't think about those things. Now, someone said, well, how would they have known where they were, or how would they have known what to do, where they were going? Well, you got to remember that they had oil lamps back in that day, not electricity. And sometimes there would be buildings that had the lamps in the windows, so you could see on a clear evening the buildings that were there if there was an oil lamp in the window or something of that nature. And there was torches back in that time as well. So let's take you to the disciples. They're in a boat, like the wooden boat that you saw a few moments ago at shore. And they are rowing with oars, and they're coming into the lake, and all of a sudden they look up and they see somebody coming to them walking on the water, and they're greatly afraid. Now, why are they greatly afraid? Mendel Noon, who wrote a book called The Fishermen of the Sea of Galilee, will tell you why they were afraid. There was a tradition among the fishermen in Galilee back in that day that if you were in a boat fishing at night, now remember this, they didn't fish during the day. How many of you know they didn't fish during the day? Have you heard me teach this? Do you know why? Because it gets hot here during the day. Now, if the sun was out, this would feel like California, Southern California summer. But what the fish do is they go deep because of the heat, and they surface at night. And so they use nets at night because the fish cannot see at night. They get caught in the net. And that's why they fished all night and caught nothing. They're fishing at night, and they're washing their nets in the morning. So always remember when you read the story of the disciples washing their net, we have toiled all night, Peter said, and we've caught nothing, is because they fished at night. And you will see the boats sometime. I heard that they stopped the fishing here to replenish the fish because there's so many tourists eating them. So I don't see a lot of boats out. I didn't see a lot this morning. I'm not sure if that has changed or not. But anyway, they fished at night. So they're at night, they're in their boat, and the tradition was if you are in your fishing boat, and you see a spirit on the water or an apparition, your boat is about to sink. It is the spirit of a fisherman who drowned in the lake that's coming up from the lake to warn you you're next. Tradition from that day. So these Galilean fishermen here are realizing they have just seen a ghost. And that's the King James translation. Actually, we have seen there's a spirit walking on the water. As it gets closer to them, they're afraid because they know the tradition. Now, Peter is not as crazy as you think, because let's say that that's a spirit and the boat is going to sink. He's thinking to himself, this is the funny thing about walking on water, he's thinking to himself, if I can do what that guy's doing or that spirit is doing, I'll survive the lake because the boat's going down, but I'm going to be out there while they're sinking. Are you tracking with me, somebody? So he does something really funny. Jesus says, it is me, don't be afraid. Well, they recognize the voice. It's hard to see at night, but they recognize the voice. Right. So Peter says this, Lord, if it is you, bid me to come out there. And of course, Jesus said, Peter, come. And he began to step out of the boat. Watch this, though. This is the funniest statement. I read that one day and I just started laughing. Funny thing about walking on water. Jesus, if it's you. Now, there's an if there. He didn't say, Jesus, bid me come. Jesus bid me come would indicate by the scripture and the wording he knew who it was and believed who it was. But he's even questioning who is the Spirit. Now, he's heard the voice, but he says, if it's you. Oh, wait a minute here now. If is a conjunction that means I'm not sure. It might be, but it might not be. Peter, what if it ain't Jesus? Stop for a minute. If it's you been become so a ghost is telling you to come on walk on the water. Peter, if it ain't Jesus, you're sinking. I hope somebody's tracking with me about the funny thing about walking on water. So it's hilarious that even though he heard the voice told you who it was, he still had an if in there. What does that mean? That's what we do all the time. We get a dream from the Lord. I've had them. Then we'll say a month later, well, Lord, if that dream was really from you, or we'll get a word from God in our spirit, and 2 months later, well, Lord, I'm just not sure, because I'm talking to, where'd the church go? Did they leave and walk on water? Where'd they go? And so we do exactly what Peter did without even realizing it, because he heard the voice, he saw who it was, but when he said if, he's questioning the entire activity of what is taking place. So he gets out of the boat. Now look, we can talk about him sinking all we want to. The guy walked on water. Are you listening to me, somebody? I mean, we always want to bring up people's failure. Did you hear about Peter? He got on the boat and he sunk. He walked on the water and he sunk. Did you hear about Peter? He got out there and fell into unbelief. Well, let's give the guy some credit. Are you ready? For walking back in the boat.
Come on now. All right, come on.
Because we get him out on the water by faith and we sink him, and that poor Jesus had to help him up. You missed the point. He's back in the boat. How do you think he got back in the boat? Jesus didn't say, get on my back, I'm going to piggyback ride you. Of course, he's a Jew, he ain't going to talk about pigs anyway. But he's saying, piggyback ride you back into the boat. He's not going to get on his back and carry him back. Peter walked back in on the water on the boat. So as you walk on water, which means as you step out of the boat, you can't, everybody wants to walk on water, nobody wants to get out of the boat. Everybody wants a miracle, nobody wants to believe. Everybody wants to break through, but nobody wants to pray. Everybody wants to feel God, but nobody wants to worship. I need some help up in this church today. And so Peter, it's a humorous thing that he says if when it's the Lord, but what if it isn't the Lord, but it is the Lord? So he gets out there, and we want to leave the poor guy sinking, because you know what? The world and the church focuses on your failure and not your success. They asked Thomas Edison, what was it like to invent the light bulb? You failed 1,000 times. He said, no, I was successful once. So what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on staying in the boat? Are you focusing on being a water walker? Are you focusing on the fact you tried but didn't get it? Are you focusing on the fact that you and Jesus can walk on water and walk back in the boat and walk back on water and walk back in the boat and walk back on water? Come on, I wish somebody would help me out. So he gets back in the boat soaking wet, but the rest of his life, his children or grandchildren, we don't know how many he had because he was married. He had a mother-in-law. You got a mother-in-law, you're married whether you believe it or not. He had a mother-in-law. But the rest of his life, Robert, he got to say, they'd say, Pops, maybe they call him Pop-Pop, maybe they call him, tell me the story of what you did that nobody else did. They all healed the sick, they all prayed for the dead, they all preached, and they all taught.
Come on.
But he did one thing that nobody else did.
Come on.
And then they would tell their kids, let me tell you the day. They'd come down here to the lake fishing. Oh, did you hear the story about the day that your grandpa walked on water? So they might make fun of you when you step out on faith. And they might make fun of you when you temporarily sink. But don't you forget, Jesus is not in the boat with the unbelievers. He's on the water with the man that says, let's walk on water together. Now, that's your message for today. Give the Lord a praise to somebody. This is Perry Stone. I am so excited to be able to present to you and your family two of the most exciting audio teachings that I have done in many years. Will Jesus Return by 2033, and the special teaching, The Soon Closing Out of the Church Age. Now, I want to talk for a moment and tell you that I'm not predicting the return of Christ in 2033, but I am saying to you that it is the most pivotal transitional date that we have encountered in our lifetime and in modern history. And I'm going to show you why that 2033 is the most important prophetic date in the prophetic cycle. And we're going to talk about God's calendar and God's timing and the events surrounding where we are going in the distant future. I also want to present to you a very special teaching, the soon closing out of the church age. The church age is also known as the dispensation of the grace of God, and it will eventually come to a conclusion with Christ's return. Then the wrath of God is going to be globally released in what is called the Great Tribulation. Now, on this 2 audio CD series, you will discover details on how, why, and when this major prophetic transition will occur. Man, this is a very powerful message. It is filled with fascinating new insight, and it provides keys to understanding soon coming events. Now, you can now get both of these audio CD messages. There are 4 CDs, 4 hours of teaching for your love gift of $30 or more. We really need your help to keep Manifest on the air. The way that you order this special teaching is by going to perrystone.org and ordering online, or call 1-888-21-BREAD toll-free and order that way. Or you can also write me at Perry Stone, P.O. Box 3595, Cleveland, Tennessee 37320. Now, when you call or write, you have to request offer number PR-138, and it is the special brand new prophecy updates. We're hoping to hear from you, and we just pray that God will continue to bless you.
If you enjoyed this YouTube content, there's an important website you should know about: perrystone.org. Perrystone.org is an essential resource for the latest books, audiovisual presentations, and digital products from Perry Stone Ministries, resources that cover the same kinds of topics discussed in the program you just watched. Stop in and see all that's available at perrystone.org.